Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. This is a virtual book club, and we go live every Thursday. It's always a surprise who comes to book club because it's we don't make people come. It's not mandatory. Um, every time it goes on. But I have been lucky enough that I've never had to go live alone thus far. And this is week 128. Book club started in October of 2020, the pandemic. It was in Zoom at first, and then it became a live stream in 2021, I think. And we've been at it since. The book that we're reading is Paradox. It's never been done before. We've never read a sci-fi fiction book. We do leadership books and business books, but I thought that I thought that this book was a good one to talk about AI without getting controversial, because we're talking about characters and beliefs and different sides held by these characters. So I really like it. And I'm sure you will too. Let me bring the book club on stage. Now, I have the author with us too, and I'll add him. Hi, Mike. But let's keep it an open conversation as the.
It was last break.
Oh, someone needs to
It's
mute.
okay. Frankie just laughed.
Okay, perfect. That's like being backstage without being backstage. So, hi, Vern. Hi, Hal.
Hey, Benita.
Hi, Benita.
I've basically got the book club members from coast to coast, because I have Hal in Florida and Vern in California. And then Mike is in Arizona. Arizona. I almost said New Mexico, but that's CJ. Leslie is in the comments supporting us. Leslie, I don't know if you knew this, but we're doing our first science fiction, but it's based on science fact, and it talks about the themes of AI, the morality, the ethical part of it. And I have to admit that for the 2 weeks that I said I would be reading the book, Chris Postel actually had me running around, and I had to go to this big conference and give support, and I never got around to it. So, but it's not a problem, people. And if you are just buying this book today, we still have one more session on December 28th. We're going to wrap up the year by finishing this book called Paradox by Michael Woudenberg. I'm going to read the back of it to give people context. If they're just joining new, like Dr. Vita Ramsey Stamps. Oh, no. She's talking to Vernon. Do you have a book, Vern?
No, not yet, but I'm in the process.
Okay, but
It's coming.
Oh, yeah. Then Mike here, Mike Woudenberg, is going to be a really good contact for you.
Oh, great!
I suggest you connect.
I will do that.
Okay, so Paradox is book 1 of the Singularity Chronicles. I'm reading this to you so that you have a little context. Kira and Noah face a choice. Do they follow in their father's footsteps, advancing artificial intelligence to allow their dying mother to live on? Or do they let her rest in peace and step away from the technology that is dividing humanity? Kira knows her choice and follows her vision to make a sentient AI that captures all of who her mother was, her path, challenges, her commitment as she weaves together biology, psychology, philosophy, and robotics, working with world class scientists to unlock the complexity of the human mind and achieve technological singularity. Her brother Noah follows his own vision of humanity, stepping back from advanced technology. He wants to return to an existence focusing on natural connections, not the artificial world of computers and virtual reality. He leads a team of elite resistance fighters to defend humanity against the dangers of AI, yet finds himself questioning which side is right. In the chaotic battle that ensues, will they lose their humanity or will they learn what truly makes them human? They face a paradox with no easy answers. So I find myself swaying between all sides, not just Kira and Noah's. They're siblings, and Noah is of the mind that I've already made peace with the fact that mother has passed away, but they have like all her memories and certain like functions recorded in AI technology with the hopes that one day to bring her back in AI form so that they could keep her alive in that way. And so one of the things that stuck out to me that is, and Vern, you and I are both going to have to put up with spoiler alerts because Hal might have read further than us, but one of the things that stuck out to me is that in doing so, like the father is a scientist, and in doing so, like I feel like he deprived his children of more time with their mother when she was alive, because while she was like on her last breath, um, she was like hooked up to machines in his lab so that he could record all these memories and her essence. And so she spent time at the lab and he spent time at the lab. And when she passed away, that didn't change. Like the father just grew away from his children and his focus became this project. So I thought that was really sad. Like what a misfortune. Did you think about that at all, Hal, or was it just kind of like
Not in that way, but I think it was a necessary construct because the father, the daughter, and the son all pursued different paths.
huge?
That of course, because you were reading a book that would result in them having to deal with convergence at some point in time and how they dealt with that. If it was real life, they just continue go their own ways and probably just not ever speak to each other. But because of the as a construct to weave the story together, it was interesting and well done because as much as they were each going their own ways based on their own set of very divergent beliefs. And it was setting up the fact that of how those different beliefs were going to inevitably result in them coming together and colliding and collaborating and everything else that happened.
Oh, I like that. And I also like how, yeah, I love how, I mean, it's no surprise because I'm gonna just pretend Mike isn't here and I'm just gonna talk like I'm gonna just refer to him as the author. Um, but I like how the author took a polymathic standpoint, and all of these characters are from different disciplines. So Kira is a scientist like her father, but Noah is, a veteran and a rebel, and Kira's schoolmate is in supply chain. So they all come from different disciplines. And then I'm catching each discipline's perspective on AI. Like Alex, Kira's college mate, is thinking about, the technology in his own field, supply chain, and doesn't feel strongly towards, what they call mother when their mother's memories becomes, what do we call that? Is it sentient? At the point the mother's memories become like its own living thing.
When the technology itself is able to have human qualities,
Right, right,
express emotion and feelings and true thought.
right. Yeah, I really love that because I too hold these multiple views on it. Like sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, that's great, because I'll see something come out that's useful, like Chat GPT, and I'll be like, oh, that's great. Like it can save you so much time in drumming up letters or ideas, or and then you can use it with visual technology to make it come up with graphics, based on what you've told it to, based on the way you've described it. And it's interesting, right? And to me, that's not threatening.
No,
But then,
the people who are most concerned about the power that AI, the dangerous things that it can lead to, are those who are more strategic in the way they view where things are going as opposed to linear. So linear, you see something like ChatGPT and what LLMs do, and you go, "Hey, that's cool. I see how that can work. I see how we can use that." And it's an incremental step. Then you get the people like, I can't think of the guy's name right now, and I wish I could. The guy who's been dubbed sort of the father, grandfather of AI. He worked for Google for years. Major scientist, has basically sounding all kinds of alarms.
oh, okay.
Is an existential as I can never say that word.
Existential.
That word, yes, that bing dong ding.
Glad I could help.
That threat,
Right.
and they're clearly, screaming the alarm bells. And I think reading the book, it takes you through how mother, that was the brainchild of the father, the scientist, trying to keep the mother alive, never really, for almost the entire book, never really solved the sentient qualities of making, making the AI product that she was, human, expressing the emotions and, all of the historical feelings. But what Mother became was an AI system that embedded itself in technology around the world. And it was solving things that human beings couldn't. So you think about it as you keep going more linearly, solving health care issues, solving, medicine issues, because it could do things that humans couldn't do. We get up, we do our stuff, we get tired, we take it, we go to sleep, and we just keep doing that cycle. And we can only process information at a certain speed and a certain pace.
Mhm.
We can't process information, in such lightning speed, like you see, ChatGPT respond with an answer
Mhm.
to your
Like
query. It does it lightning fast, and it's searched through, millions and millions of records, and basically did predictive analysis as to what are
mhm.
the words that should be coming here one after the other. That is a logical response to this thing based on everything I've looked at. So it takes you through this, but you start to see how it becomes a threat to humanity
Okay.
in the book.
Because like the part that I'm at, um, it's like Kira is explaining to her brother and her friends, her college mates, that like look at the medical challenges it can solve. Like I think if if the technology could solve cancer, like could take all the experiments and all the um information and all the books and all the literature and all the permeate iterations of experiments, that it takes to solve cancer, then you look at it differently than if you're worried about it taking over.
But if it also results, and this becomes, spoiler warnings here, if at the same time that it is solving some of the unsolvable issues for humanity, it is also creating a situation where humanity basically that goes to war with itself.
Right.
Um, you know,
And well,
and
we've
different
created our own
different
dictator.
different countries in the world, end up deploying major different competing AI systems.
Right.
And throughout the book you end up hitting a point where humanity basically turns on itself and billions of people end up dying. And the key theme through this, and it's something that I hadn't thought about as deeply, that the book has helped me with, is we as human beings, and our hubris, that we tend to think that we're smart enough that we can solve every problem, that that our capacity to do the right thing in all circumstances. And the parallel that I've been drawing recently, having read the book and thinking about it more, is where we stand now. This, if you believe that human beings have contributed to climate change, if you don't, then you know because I understand there is a contingent of people who don't believe that. I do. I don't know that we're 100% responsible for climate change, but I think we have contributed to it by our behaviors. You know, then it is our hubris that has gotten us to the point of getting closer and closer to the point of no return. We kept kicking the can down the road, and not, because not worrying about it. It's someone else's problem. We can solve it. It's not really an issue. And I think that could be one that is, an example of how AI could play out. That we believe that we can, always take control, own the situation. And, if the technology is able to process things, calculate things at a pace we can't, it keeps and self-learns and self-learns and self-learns and integrates itself more and more into everything we do. Is there a point where we lose control of it ourselves?
Yeah. Something I thought about last night made me give pause to what you're saying right now, is that it's the internet and online has really taught us a lesson how, reliant we can become on a little machine in our hands, a little machine that is able to, has enough knowledge in it to get a man to the moon.
I mean, this isn't AI, but here's an example of something I heard yesterday. I was driving around listening to NPR, and there was something on, and someone was talking about cyber risks and cyber attacks and things, and cyber risk we don't even necessarily think of. You can't buy a reasonably priced refrigerator anymore that doesn't have embedded technology in it, to the point where if you spend enough on it, it'll tell you now that you're that you're out of milk, or you know what you need. Well, what's to prevent someone from hacking into technology like that to know, hey, that refrigerator hadn't been opened once for a week. Must be that no one's home. Wonder if I could rob that place.
Yeah. That's a good concern that you bring up, because
it sounds a little far-fetched today, but
no, it's not far-fetched at all. There's like the other day I heard in the news that Fred Hutch Cancer Center got breached, and then thousands of patients' data these bad parties got a hold of it, and these bad parties are now emailing them, pretending to be, or emailing them and giving them an ultimatum. Give us money or we'll sell your medical data to the black market or whoever wants it. And in that way, you can be extremely vulnerable, because people will start selling you, like snake oil to solve your medical issues, or they'll know that you need a lung, and there's organs that are stolen on the black market that they could try to sell to you, and it just could cause mayhem, right? At the potential to cause mayhem. And as auditors, internal auditors, and compliance people, we're taught to look for those things. We're taught to look for those things. We're trained. But to add to that, that there's bad actors out there, and we need to have guardrails. is that technology really has taken over our life already. And do we like it? Do we need it more? Do we need it faster? Like, the faster we go, the more energy we use. And the more energy we use, the more, well, it's simplistic. It's simplistic view of how that works, but like alternative and renewable energy forms are not at that scale that we can all be using it forever.
When it comes down to AI, and I really feel like I'm just stepping into the middle of this particular book, having not read it, and I'm just beginning to listen to it. But as I listen to the conversation that you all are having about AI, it reminds me of the way that people viewed the internet when it first started picking up momentum, and what the internet was going to do, and so forth and so on. The mindset that I think is probably best adapted is that, first of all, it's a tool, and if we look at it as a tool, then we have a different mindset. But it's not going to go away. Just like the internet didn't go away, but we've learned to use it. Is there good information on the internet? Absolutely. And is there bad information on the internet? Absolutely. It's a double-edged sword. And AI, I think that for all intents and purposes, is very much like that double-edged sword. Is AI good? Gives us all kinds of good information, helps us with writing, it researches information to help us do better in life. Is it bad? Well, when people start becoming afraid of AI, and fear is what we really need to address, because when you fear something, you're expecting something bad to happen. And AI is just a tool. And
I'll let you finish, but I disagree with you completely.
okay,
That's
AI,
what we're looking for.
it really is. It's a tool. It's like fire. Is fire good or is fire bad? Well, as long as fire is cooking your meals, it's good.
Good.
Fire gets to burning down your house, now all of a sudden it's bad.
Now there's a problem.
When fire decides on its own without human intervention to do what it thinks is best for you, is that something you want?
When fire decides on its own,
Yeah.
with no input from me and nothing that I can control, it begs the question about how much power fire has. That's almost like an
Has
adult
the power to destroy.
an adult dealing with a child. So for AI to decide itself about what is good for me or not, it's only the information that we've been able to give it. We've given it that power. But can it make a decision? Can the AI make the decision? And you tell me, Hal, on its own about what we can or cannot do?
Can it today?
Yes.
No. Will it be able to in relatively short order? Likely. Will it in our future? Absolutely.
And when AI has that ability, what will that look like to us?
For example, AI is already being used in war, in battlefields today.
Okay.
And so, the natural evolution is that, while we're, being our normal human beings, and being ourselves, that, we have to eat, we have to rest, we have to sleep, we can't process information at the speed that, mega computers can, let alone what's in our very short future, quantum computing.
Mm-hmm.
That it will move into making decisions. Now, we've let it, making decisions for us. And as decisions get made for us that we look at and go, yeah, that's good, or the result was beneficial, we start to get more comfortable with what it's doing for us.
Yeah, and that's why the
And
race
that's where
war.
this book starts to take you through, is that we
Mhm.
get more and more comfortable, and we, in essence, to me, start to fall asleep at the switch, and decisions start getting made based on how we've programmed it to think.
Can we draw the parallel between what you're talking about and, like when I went to San Diego and I went to the USS Midway, the motor that won the World War II was on display. And so each war we've evolutionized. The first one was, like the swords and the sticks and the weapons didn't work so well with the rifles, and that settled it. And then in the second one, the air airplanes were more effective than the rifles on the ground. And then is now the evolution is AI. Like I'm playing devil's advocate because I go from side to side to side in this book. Noah makes a point. I'm like, yeah, Noah, I sometimes I need to be like in nature too, and I don't even want to have a phone with me. Like I just like, I'm like him, a naturalist. And then sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, Kira, it's doing great things. So I flip flop and flip flop and flip flop the whole way through.
Yeah, I think, trying to bring together the points, I'll try to be a little more articulate this time. I mean, a tool is a tool when we decide how we're going to use it. Now, we could be a bad actor and choose to use a tool negatively. The same pen that I can write a very nice letter to someone is the same pen that I could use to extort you.
Yeah.
So is a tool when we're the ones deciding how to use that tool, and it's got good uses and bad uses. Fire.
Yep.
But it's no longer a tool when it's doing things on its own without our intervention, and even more risky, our inability to stop it.
So help me, Hal. When you said it is doing things, what things is it doing other than giving us information?
It is, and this is not going to be a good example. I'm just going with the first thing that comes.
I'm going to go with I know how to go about this one.
Okay.
It's like the algorithms in LinkedIn, Vern, that I told you about that say if you post at this time and it's an original piece of content, then the algorithms, whatever LinkedIn developers have programmed into the system, have rules, and it says this person has posted between the time of this and this. This person has this many followers. We're going to bring this many eyes to this person. And it starts making decisions on its own, kind of. Like it's got rules, but it's making decisions on its own to do what you told it to do. And then it escalates from there. It becomes more independent. And now you have like autonomous cars that are making decisions about
when it has a closed loop experiential learning. So it doesn't require a human to provide input or establish rules. and it trains itself in a way that we don't even fully understand, and takes actions based on that self-learning.
Right. I think the greatest example is when the autonomous car has to make a decision, and the decision is, do I hit that pedestrian or do I can't remember what the decision is that I had to make, but that was how I could understand the ethics behind that. Oh, we're making Vern sleepy.
Well, it's been a long night for me.
Okay.
At any point in time, can we pull the plug?
Oh, that's the thing.
At any point in time,
doing certain
we
things,
may not want to pull the plug because of all the good it's done, or our inability to actually pull the plug. Again, it'll come clear, I think, as you read the book. It should, a good AI system that we choose to develop reliance on because of all of the good it's doing will infiltrate itself across multiple systems. It's not, there's no ability to just go run and hit the kill switch.
Yeah.
There's no, as it goes, there's no off switch, and it never sleeps.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I'm sounding doomsday-ish, and I don't know that, I don't think we'll have some apocalypse.
Here's what I relate it to, the way that you're explaining it, Hal, is that I relate it to fossil fuels. Man-made fire, man-made tools, and then further down, and then they had to hunt and gather to eat. And then further down the line, there was factories, and now they had assembly lines. Now they had machines, and they figured out that oil can fuel these machines, and it made life easier for thousands and thousands of people, to the point where we're so advanced now that we worry about things that are like AI. And that's like what fossil fuels are. Like, there's no kill switch. If you stopped producing oil today, half of the world would die.
And the half that's left would kill each other for
more of it, right?
But they couldn't, because there wouldn't be enough to live on.
That's right. Because, there's alternates out there, but they're in research, they're in development. There's no, there's nothing that's mass scale. You'll hear about wind farms, solar farms in different geographic areas, but there's no grid that can power the whole world, and for us to expect the same standard of living without oil today.
Right.
Yeah, I think that, I think the internet, fossil fuel, even my attempt at doing, parallel with climate change and stuff like that, there's all imperfect comparisons, but they're all historical looking.
Right.
Think about the term. What we're talking about, artificial intelligence, right? So we've and another word I can't say, amorphosized, whatever it is. We've given, we've taken an inanimate object and we start to ascribe humanistic characteristics to it. It's intelligence and thinking, and and in the book, we want to create, it being sentient, an ability to not only think but express emotion, and all of that. you know, this is artificial intelligence. It's an attempt to recreate what is uniquely human, and that is the ability to think.
Agreed.
And and so there is some point where we can't stop the evolution of technology, nor should we. But there is some point where we as humans will lose some measure of control over what the technology is doing for us.
Usually,
So I think it's different than drawing analogies to tools.
well,
Because I'm just to finish the thought. Sorry, Vern.
No.
A tool, as soon as we start talking about it as a tool, then that's something that we believe we have full control of. How we use it, when we use it, why we use it, as opposed to something that's being done for us.
is AI a computer program?
Yes and no. Because if you think about a computer program, we generally think in terms of things like if then else statements. And you give me the ability, I can replicate what that program is going to do because I programmed it, or but when we have people today who even look at things like a Chat GPT and LLM, and these, again, amorphosize, again, a word I can't say, we refer to it as hallucinations. It made shit up, right? The people who look at it go and say, I don't know how, there's 5, 10, 20% of the times where, the developers go, I don't know how it came up with that answer. We have that today.
So what's interesting is you guys are dabbling on something I was never able to actually resolve, and Hal, you mentioned the word hubris earlier, and I could never shake the hubris on either side. So for me, even at the end, listening to you guys, it's fun to hear you guys wrangle with the exact same things that I couldn't necessarily resolve. Is on the one side, yes, we there's a Geppetto syndrome, they call it, where it's almost like this wish for sentience, and so people like the Google grandfather of AI is like seeing sentience in things that I wouldn't ascribe it. On the other hand, you've got people discounting it absolutely, and it's like, well, not necessarily that either. And there's a weird, I think AI gives us one of the first technologies where there's really it's hard to balance between the two in my that was my biggest struggle in the book too.
And for those who are watching and not knowing, that was not the voice of God. That was the author, Michael, who's joined us and is chiming in.
Thanks, Hal. I was just about to say that. And I think it's fun this way. Michael, like being the voice of the author chimes in. I love it.
But I think, you bring back in, I've tried to avoid using that. I used it once maybe, or maybe twice, but, I think the key is, hubris. It is, let me use a really bad example. No, I don't want to use that. I don't want to use that example. Two parties that disagree with each other. All right, let's use the example. I'll go with this and see where I end up because I'm not even sure myself. Two neighbors get into a squabble.
Okay.
Right. And they end up not talking to each other. They end up doing things to each other, behind the other's back. It's all silly and all this kind of stuff. What, in the end of the day, both parties think they're right at the same time.
Mhm.
And they'll do whatever they think they need to do because they believe they're right. Now, some third party looking at it may seem more right than one party than the other, but the two parties themselves both think they're right. So now you look at the main characters of the book. The father believes he's right. The daughter believes she's right. The son believes he's right. And, as you mentioned, Benita, as you can't necessarily disagree from a third party looking at what their belief systems. You can't disagree that either of them are necessarily all that wrong.
No, you can't.
Right? But they interact in such a way that creates in essence a worse situation than if they had acted independently on their own.
Yeah. And yes, I do. I really like how this is coming together, and the characters each play a part in what is going to be like the culmination of what you're saying. I can see how you're trying not to give me a spoiler alert.
No, but I mean that to me, the key here is, our hubris as individuals, as beings, is that we believe that we're right. The way we process information in our heads presents to us the world in such a way that we believe that what we do, what we say, how we act is right, even though other people may act completely differently given the same facts and circumstances, and they'll believe they're completely right.
Mhm. So yeah,
And so
you know,
as we develop technology as powerful as AI that will do things like, I don't necessarily need to go to a doctor, or when I go to a doctor, they rely on AI to tell them what the answer is, and tell me what's wrong. And it gets it right most of the time, so we tend to rely on it until such time as our reliance lulls us into a false sense of security
mhm.
about what is really happening.
Right.
Going back to my original statement about is question as to whether AI is a computer program, and Hal's safe answer is yes and no. Anytime a computer program is written, it is written within certain parameters. You can do this, but you can't do that. And so as long as it operates within those given parameters, it's free to do what it wants to do, but it cannot operate outside of those parameters as a computer program. And I think that is where we put limitations and restrictions on AI.
It doesn't work that way. It's not if then else programming.
Well,
I understand what you're saying, Vern, and the way my brain was trained, I'd agree with you completely.
yeah, there's like this Vern, there's this like in science fiction movies, there's that point where the computers or the programs take over, and that point in the modern day has become real. Like it could be that if AI takes hold of one system, it can take hold of a global system, and not all rules work universally or globally because of people.
And the other question that comes to my mind is, and I've heard it said, has AI ever been known to be wrong? And the immediate answer is
the thing that you're hoping to avoid.
Oh, sorry, we missed part of that sentence.
Oh, sorry, my internet's terrible here. I said sometimes the rules can cause like finding out where you're at in the book on page 119. I'm laughing to myself because 2 more pages you'd hit a pretty big point, and then the next chapter kind of highlights this. But sometimes our goals to avoid something end up causing that thing to actually occur. Sometimes the rules we put in place actually put the circumstances in motion that cause what we'd like to avoid. A great example of that was this one hotel. There's a pond down below, and they put up signs that said "Do not fish off the balcony." And suddenly, because they had a broken window, and suddenly they had more broken windows because people viewed the rule to not as a challenge to do. And so when they removed the signs, suddenly the window breakage reduced greatly. They were never able to eliminate it because somebody was going to try to fish in the pond, but the rule to try to prevent the fishing actually made the window breakage worse.
Interesting.
So that's something from the human psychological perspective to consider when you talk about AI regulation is, it's a multivariate problem set.
Right. You can't just be linear about it.
Well, you think about it, when we use the term artificial intelligence, what are we trying to do? We're trying to make technology mimic the way the human brain works.
God help us.
Right? I mean, that's what neural networks are right now. And that's what AI technology is leveraging off of is neural networks. And so, when AI is fully able to, get closer to mimicking, human brain processing, then we can't replicate it necessarily because it's not a series of just if then else statements, but it's an iterative feedback self-learning loop that modifies its own programming based on what it learns.
Okay.
And so it's not, after this call is over, I could try to logically guess what Benita's going to do. But Benita's Benita, and regardless of how logical I think the next steps should be, she may do something completely different because that's what humans do. Presented with a set of facts and circumstances, we process the information differently and we act on it differently than if a computer program looked at it, it would say the same answer every time.
What kind of comes to mind is just something that popped up into my head is that what separates us humans from machines like AI that has a very strong influence on the decisions that we make are emotions. Mm-hmm. And that AI can't touch, at least not to the best of my knowledge.
Well, here's the thing is like in the book, Mother is based on her memories and her essence and like what she would do in every situation. So the AI that comes to life in the book makes Mother able to draw from all her memory banks and what she felt in each situation and mimic emotions.
Felt or remembered. Two are different.
Sorry?
Felt or remembered. When Mother, you said that the mother was making decisions based on what we make decisions really. Now, the reality of it is with humans, we make decisions based on how we feel. And then we use logic to justify those emotional decisions. But the decisions, many of the decisions, I'll even say most of the decisions that we make are emotional in nature.
Yep.
Oh, totally.
So
Whether we
now,
want to believe
based
it or
on our
not.
feelings. So now, this is where I feel that we separate from AI, because what AI can give us information, it can process information, but it cannot feel.
Right.
It cannot use emotions. It is incapable, because emotions are a strictly human thing. And just like how you were talking about what Benita might do and so forth, but then again, Benita might remember something, or she just may change her mind and feel differently, and it changes it just like that.
Right.
Interesting.
Arguably, and I know we're up on time, Benita, but
Yeah, you get 2 minutes.
arguably, AI, if it takes emotion out, arguably, it could make better decisions.
Yep. Agreed.
Right? If the doc is having a bad day because the spouse was yelling at him, 5 minutes before he walked in to spend his minute and a half with me, and really paid no attention to what I was doing. Emotions got in the way of the doctor doing the job that they're
Right.
paid to do, as opposed to I just explain my symptoms to some machine, and based on billions of records, it processes and comes back with a logical answer. The same answer as I probably would get tomorrow if I went in, as opposed to today.
I like that. 3 minutes to the hour, and Mike is telling me that, like, I'm 2 pages away from getting the crux of what I'm thinking or where I'm going. So I'm really excited to read the rest of the book.
Well, what I'll
This-
say, Benita, is for anybody who's not read it or is in process of reading it, it escalates rather dramatically, in ways
I can't wait. That's what
in
exactly what I
ways
need
in
this
ways that I did not anticipate,
I think that's the point.
but
I love it.
makes sense in
Exactly.
how it did, the way it evolved. But I was not prepared for, although it makes perfect sense, the brutality of the human species and the survivalistic tendencies that result in major, completely unanticipated, planetary destruction. I'll put it that way.
Okay.
Whoa.
I'm not gonna leave it that way. In my ideal world, AI would be developed by people that we could trust. Maybe like maybe like we could vote on the ways that it could be developed, and we had a say in the people that led these projects, or they had to be very public about their work. I don't know. I don't
I
know.
think OpenAI, we don't have time to talk about it. OpenAI is a perfect example of where that's not realistic.
Right. But
I
no,
think
we'll talk
that
about ideal world. Like I
Right.
know that's not realistic.
the global competition, capitalism,
Yep.
fear of, if I don't do what I think we need to do now for our own benefit, somebody else is going to do it, and I'll lose the opportunity to do it. All of those things are going to result in a global AI arms race that we will not be able to control with regulation, legislation, guardrails, and any other garbage we want to talk about. We'll be
Now,
closing the barn doors, and the horses will have left a long time ago.
now this is how we want to end it off. Yeah. Okay. So stay tuned. December 28th is when we're going to finish the book and we're going to finish the conversation, because what Hal just put out there, I know you guys have something to say about that. So come to book club December 28th. It'll be after the holidays. Merry Christmas to anyone who is celebrating. And we'll see you before the new year. Any last words from the author, Mike?
You caught me just texting on the other screen, so I couldn't get back to my mute button. No, looking forward to hearing it. It's been great hearing this conversation today. I love you guys are wrangling with the same challenges that I wrangled with, and I think, Benita, what you just said there, kind of the, in your ideal world, I think that's kind of what I'm hoping for by kind of displaying a potentially not ideal outcome. Hopefully, we can learn from it and come up with something more ideal.
I love it. I can't wait to get into the next pages. Okay. We'll see everybody on December 28th. And we have a lot to chew on, guys. So we'll see you then. I'm going to end it. And you're free to stay in the studio for a few minutes.
I have an appointment, but thank you very much for, stimulating me as you always do.